It was just a regular evening. I had my tea, a soft playlist playing in the background, and I was finally starting to unwind when my phone buzzed. It was Camilla. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. Her message was short, just one line, but it hit me like a slap. "Hey, I found this on a dating app. Isn't this your boyfriend?" My chest tightened. Below her text was a screenshot of a dating profile. Fake name, some recycled bio. But Ryan's face was right there, staring at me. My hands went cold. I zoomed in, praying my eyes were playing tricks on me. But no, same jawline, same smirk, same shirt I gave him last Christmas. I replied, "Thanks," and sat there for a second, feeling like the air had been sucked out of the room. Ryan was in the living room, relaxed, scrolling on his phone like everything was normal. I walked over, phone in hand, and asked him, "Can you explain this?" He didn't even flinch, barely glanced at the screen before shrugging it off. "That's not me. Someone probably stole my photos." Just like that. No hesitation, no guilt. And I knew. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. Not then. I just nodded and walked away. Because in that moment, something in me snapped awake. If he wanted to live a double life, I was going to show him exactly what it felt like to meet his match. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay there beside him, listening to his breathing, wondering how long he'd been lying to me. Every memory started to feel contaminated. That time he said he was working late, the random weekends away with the guys, it all started rearranging itself into something uglier. But I didn't confront him again. I smiled, I kissed him goodnight. I even asked if he wanted coffee in the morning. He thought I was moving on, that I believed him. That was his first mistake. The next morning, I went about my routine as if nothing had happened. But inside, I was drafting blueprints. Not for revenge, exactly. Something colder, more surgical. I wasn't going to scream or break things. I was going to mirror him. Show him what it felt like to be deceived by someone you trusted. Camilla checked in on me that afternoon, asking if I was okay. I told her the truth. I'm not, but I will be. It's strange how quiet betrayal can be. It doesn't always come with fireworks or slamming doors. Sometimes it's just a screenshot and a silence that settles deep in your bones, but once it's there, you start seeing everything differently. I wasn't going to beg for honesty anymore. I'd take control of the story and flip the script he thought he was writing. That evening, while he showered, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I stared at his profile again, the one he claimed wasn't his. I studied every word he wrote, every little lie designed to reel someone in. Adventurous, emotionally mature, looking for something real. The irony nearly made me laugh. I knew exactly what he was looking for. And I knew exactly how to become it. I started drafting something of my own. Not a message, a new identity. I thought about everything he'd ever said he liked: confidence, mystery, a touch of flirtation. I thought about what kind of woman would get his attention without raising suspicion. And then I named her Leah. Short, elegant. Someone he'd fall for in a heartbeat. He wanted a fantasy? I'd give him one, but this one came with teeth. When he got out of the shower, he kissed me on the forehead like nothing was wrong. I smiled and kissed him back. All the while, I was already building the version of myself he was about to meet. The version that wouldn't fall for his charm, but would lure him straight into the light he worked so hard to avoid. Creating Leah felt like slipping into another skin. I picked the perfect photos. Not of me, of course, but of a woman who looked just believable enough. A little mystery, a little glam. I wrote a bio full of half-truths and baited dreams. Lover of deep conversations, not into drama, craving something real. Every word was tailored to the man I knew better than he thought I did. The second I hit publish, I felt a rush. Not fear, not guilt, power. I didn't have to wait long. Minutes. That's all it took. His profile, the one he swore wasn't his, swiped right. My heart didn't even race. It just confirmed what I already knew. He messaged immediately. "There's something different about you. I like it." I stared at that message for a while, then smiled. I crafted the perfect reply. A little playful, just vague enough to hook him. And just like that, the game had officially begun. Every conversation became a script. I asked the right questions, fed him the answers he wanted to hear. He fell into it so easily, like he'd done this 100 times before. Maybe he had, but this time, every lie he told was being documented. Word for word, screenshot by screenshot. He thought he was getting lucky. What he didn't realize was that I was already building the evidence that would destroy him. I kept the tone light, teasing, curious, never too eager. He couldn't resist it. Within days, he was telling Leah about his dreams, his stress, his so-called loneliness. He painted himself as this misunderstood man stuck in a loveless relationship. I listened. I played along. And every time he mentioned his girlfriend, I saved it. He had no idea that every confession he whispered to his fantasy was really a confession to the woman he was betraying. He sent me songs, quotes, even a photo of his dog, our dog. That one almost made me laugh. The nerve it took to recycle pieces of our life like they were just props in his performance. I'd respond sweetly, ask about his day, tell him how refreshing it was to talk to someone so open. I knew how to make him feel seen, and in that vulnerability, he gave himself away more and more. Camilla checked in every now and then, and I let her know what I was doing. She offered to help, but this was something I needed to do on my own. This wasn't about catching him anymore. It was about turning the mirror around and letting him see exactly who he really was, through the eyes of the woman he thought he could outsmart. And slowly, message by message, I was building the perfect reflection. The more we talked, the more reckless he got. He started asking to meet. Said he couldn't stop thinking about me, about Leah. He told me how rare it was to find someone who just gets him. I played the part so well it almost scared me. But underneath every flirtatious emoji, every sigh-inducing reply, I was stone, cold, focused. This wasn't flirting. This was gathering proof, and he was handing it to me on a silver platter. I had an entire folder by now, screenshots of every message, every lie, every disgusting compliment he thought was secret. I even saved the times he was texting Leah while sitting beside me on the couch. The double life he was so proud of was now being neatly archived. I started timing my responses to see how quickly he'd bite. Sometimes under a minute, like a reflex, like addiction. He kept saying, "I can't wait to see you." And I kept smiling. Because so could I, but not for the reason he thought. This wasn't about closure or confrontation anymore. It was about control. For once, I held the cards. And while he thought he was walking toward a date with desire, I was preparing something else entirely. The kind of night he'd never forget. It didn't take long before he started opening up to Leah like she was his safe place. It was wild to watch, how easily he unraveled for someone he'd never met. He told me things he never had the courage to say to my face. Said he felt stuck, like his relationship was draining the life out of him. "I just want someone who understands me," he wrote, as if I hadn't spent years doing just that. But now, I just saved the message and kept typing. The things he said about me, about Julia, were so familiar, they felt like old bruises getting pressed again. "She's sweet but predictable," he told Leah. "You're different. You make me feel alive." And there I was, reading it all with a straight face. Because I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was documenting. His betrayal wasn't news. It was a pattern, finally caught in the act. And the more he revealed, the more I realized he didn't just cheat. He rewrote me. And yet, I didn't let that bitterness seep into Leah. No, she stayed dreamy, curious, always asking the right follow-ups. "What do you want most right now? Do you think people can really start over?" He ate it up, said he'd never connected like this before, that he was ready to take a risk. I told him I admired that. I really did, because he had no idea how risky this was about to get. I started noticing the way he craved validation. It wasn't enough for me, or Leah, to be interested. He needed to be chased, admired, adored. He sent long voice notes talking about his childhood, how he always felt like he had to perform to be loved. I listened to every second, carefully cataloging his need to be seen. And I thought about how many times I'd told him he was enough. How many times he shrugged it off, only to chase it somewhere else. He talked about his dreams, his fears, even the kind of future he imagined with someone like Leah. Someone who gets it, he'd say. Not someone who's just safe. It stung more than I expected, but I didn't break. I took a breath and stayed in character. Because this wasn't about getting emotional. This was about letting him dig his own grave, one message at a time. And trust me, he was digging fast. There was one night he texted Leah while I sat across from him at dinner. Candlelight, wine, the whole fake romance. I watched his eyes flick to his phone and back to me like nothing was happening. He smiled. I smiled back. Because in that moment, I knew I had him. He had no idea the woman lighting up his screen and the one sitting across the table were the same person, and that both versions were done playing his game. By now, I knew everything I needed to know. His patterns, his excuses, the little phrases he recycled to woo women like scripts he'd memorized. He told Leah she made him feel like the world slowed down when they talked, the same line he used on me the night we first kissed. Back then, it felt like poetry. Now, it was just evidence. Cheap, hollow, and word-for-word identical. I saved it anyway. Another receipt. Another brick in the foundation I was building. He started talking about escape. Said he wanted to get away for a weekend. Just the two of us. Said he'd make it worth it. I told him it sounded tempting, that I'd think about it. He begged. That's when I knew. He wasn't just invested. He was hooked. He thought he was making progress, getting closer. What he didn't realize was that the closer he got to Leah, the closer he was getting to the reckoning I had planned. So when he asked if I wanted to meet in person, I said yes. Casual, confident. I told him I knew the perfect place. Intimate, low-key, just his style. He said he couldn't wait. I smiled at the screen and said I'd be there. And I meant it. But the woman walking into that bar wasn't going to be Leah. It was going to be me, Julia. The one he underestimated. The one he never really knew. The night of the date, I took my time getting ready, not because I wanted to impress him, but because I wanted to feel powerful. I picked a dress I knew he loved, paired it with the lipstick he once said made me dangerous in the best way. Funny how all those compliments felt different now. They used to make me feel special. That night, they were armor. I wasn't walking into a date. I was walking into the final scene of a performance he didn't know he was part of. I arrived 10 minutes early and spoke with the bartender, a friend of Camilla's, fully briefed. I gave him the folder I'd printed out the night before. Screenshots, timestamps, everything. He looked at me, half amused, half horrified. "You sure you want to go through with this?" he asked. I nodded. He thinks tonight is about seduction. Let's give him something unforgettable. I ordered a drink and waited. At 8 p.m. sharp, Ryan walked in. He was freshly shaved, wearing the cologne I gave him last Valentine's Day. His eyes scanned the room like a teenager on a first date. He was nervous, hopeful, completely unaware. I watched him from across the bar, heart steady, lips calm, and when he sat at the table marked with our meeting point, I made my move. I picked up the envelope, walked over, and sat down directly across from him. His face went pale. He blinked like he was trying to reboot his brain. "Julia?" he said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. I just slid the envelope across the table and leaned back, letting the silence stretch. He stared at it like it might explode. Then slowly, he opened it. The first page was a screenshot of the dating profile. The next, a message where he said he was done with boring relationships. Then more, all of them. Every lie, every secret, laid out in black and white. He didn't speak for a long time, just sat there, jaw clenched, eyes darting from page to page. I could see the moment it hit him, the moment he realized Leah had never existed, that the woman he'd been chasing was sitting right in front of him the whole time, but not as the broken, betrayed girlfriend, as the architect of his downfall. When he finally looked up, he opened his mouth to say something, but I beat him to it. "You said you wanted honesty," I said, calm as ever. "So here I am." Then I stood up. No drama, no last words, no public meltdown. Just one sharp glance at the bartender, who gave me a subtle nod in return. He'd seen it all, witnessed every second. Ryan, for once, had no script, no clever lines, just the weight of truth he could no longer escape. I didn't wait for his reaction. I walked out of that bar like I was shedding an old skin. The air outside felt different, cleaner, sharper. For the first time in months, I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't wondering if I was being too paranoid or too emotional. I had trusted my gut, followed the trail, and faced the truth head-on. And more than that, I made him face it too. Without yelling, without begging. Just facts, silence, and my exit. As I turned the corner, I heard my phone buzz. A text, from Camilla, just one word. Done? I typed back. Done. She sent a heart emoji. We didn't need to say much. She knew what this night meant. Not just for the lies I exposed, but for the part of myself I reclaimed. I wasn't the woman waiting for apologies anymore. I was the woman who didn't need them. Back home, I tossed the envelope on the kitchen counter and poured myself a glass of wine. The room was quiet, peaceful, real. And while he had shown up expecting a secret affair, what he got instead was the truth, delivered with precision, grace, and not a single tear. But the story wasn't over yet. Not for him. Not after what happened next. The next morning, I blocked him. Phone, email, socials. Every trace of him gone in seconds. There was nothing left to say. And even if there was, I wasn't giving him the stage. I didn't post anything, didn't make a dramatic announcement. I just let the silence speak for itself. But Camilla? She had other ideas. She posted a story, anonymous of course, with a title that made me laugh out loud. She matched with her boyfriend, as someone else. Within hours, it was everywhere. The story went viral in ways I didn't expect. Hundreds of comments from women who'd lived through similar betrayals. Some were heartbroken, some were furious. But most, empowered. It became more than just a tale of revenge. It was a mirror held up to every woman who'd ever been lied to and gaslit. And even though my name wasn't in it, I felt seen, not as a victim, as someone who took her pain and used it with purpose. Ryan didn't message me again. Of course not. But a week later, something happened that sealed it all. Camilla texted me a screenshot. Ryan had tried to message Leah again. Same opening line, same flirty tone. He forgot the profile was gone, deleted right after our date. That moment? That was the real ending. Not with a bang, but with a ghost swipe into silence. I stared at that screenshot for a long time, not because I was shocked, but because it was so perfectly pathetic. After everything, after the confrontation, the evidence, the silence, he still couldn't help himself. He still thought he could charm his way back into the lie. And that was when it hit me. This wasn't about me not being enough. It never was. It was about him never being full. He was a man with a bottomless hunger for attention, and no idea how to hold on to something real. That realization didn't come with tears. It came with a strange kind of peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was done. Really done. Not the kind of done where you check their profile at midnight or rehearse imaginary conversations in the shower. The kind of done where you stop carrying their weight in your chest. Where you close the chapter, slide the book back on the shelf, and turn the light off without looking back. I started doing things I hadn't done in a while, not because I was trying to move on, but because I finally had space again. I cooked for myself. I took long walks without checking my phone. I even bought a new journal, one with a cover that said "Start Again," and I meant it. This wasn't about revenge anymore. That part was over. This was about rediscovery, of the woman I had muted for far too long. In the weeks that followed, I didn't speak his name. Not to friends, not to family, not even in my thoughts. He became like a bad dream that fades the moment the sun rises. Distant, irrelevant, weightless. And while he may have been out there spinning new stories, swiping on new profiles, looking for the next woman to fool, I had no interest in watching. That chapter of my life was closed, sealed, and buried under truth he couldn't talk his way out of. But the funny thing about truth is, it echoes. People started asking questions. Quietly at first, then louder. Mutual friends texted me, not for gossip, but for clarity. I told them only what mattered, that I wasn't the one who needed explaining anymore. The rest spoke for itself, because the receipts were out there, the screenshots, the timeline, the silence. And somewhere deep down, even he had to know. This wasn't a loss for me. It was a reckoning for him. The last message he ever tried to send, the one to Leah, ended up in digital purgatory. No reply, no profile, just the emptiness he created. And me? I moved on. No more pretending, no more waiting. Just one simple truth. He swiped right on a stranger, and I swiped left on him, for good.